Good morning. It's July 20th, 2022, and we're having the bargaining negotiations. And I'm going to be passing around the sign-in sheets so that we can sign in and start our session this morning. I think both teams have been caucusing this morning prior to the opening session. I think what today is going to look like is we're going to do the sign-in sheet and talk about scheduling the next negotiation sessions right now. And then, as I understand, both teams need to caucus a little bit to finalize proposals that they're both going to place on the table today.
Yes.
And then once that's done, we'll meet in open session again and we'll do the presentations of the proposals. And depending on how far I can get on my proposals, I have some proposals. I may have more later. It just depending on the information that I can finish getting today. So, but we do plan on putting some stuff on the table today. Okay. We're doing 2 originals. Uh-oh. I was signing where I'm supposed to. Yeah. I'll turn this one. Okay, there we go. We're passing those. While we're passing those, I think that we can talk about schedules. I think that we're going to not be able to meet the week of August 1st through 5th and the week of August 8th through 12th. And we need to set the next bargaining meetings. And I need to confer with, I think my team is good with that.
We had a CLE I was supposed to be at the 17th, 18th, the 16th, 17th, 18th, but I can miss cancel.
The only thing I can't do is the 19th. That's it.
Okay, so the 19th.
I can't do the 19th.
And you have a CLE, is it out of town?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, we can try to accommodate that if it would interfere. I don't want you to have to cancel that. Okay. So, and if necessary, I think, you know, we will still have a quorum. I'll work with my team to make sure that we can do something on the week of the 15th and then the following week on
22nd.
the 22nd to 26th. So that's when the next bargaining meetings, and I just want to say that, you know, we've made, I think that we have discussed that we have made really good progress with the 4 meetings that we have had. We've had some really good ground rules. We've got, you know, like 14, I think, tentative agreements, one being something that actually did have a change in it. Y'all have placed a lot of very good substantive proposals on the table that we have to do our homework on, and that involves costing, especially for the economic impacts and any impacts it may have on operations. We have 4 meetings pursuant to our ground rules to put all our new proposals on the table, and that's what I think that both teams are focusing on right now, is just getting everything on the table so we can start working with it. And so that's what we plan on doing. The city has not yet put proposals on the table, but we will start today. And we want to utilize today and the next meeting to be able to make sure that we put all the proposals that we need to put on the table. And we do want to start responding to yours as well. So we will be working really hard these next 2 weeks. The line of communication is always open. I think that we've discussed, and we both each have each other's cell phones and emails. And if you need any kind of request for information, documents, or just questions on something, feel free to, the lead negotiators can absolutely reach out to each other and discuss. Okay?
And the format's gonna be similar to what we were doing once you propose, you read it through, you ask questions, just to make sure the intent's there, or what the intent of the change, or how it might change,
Yes.
anything on our part.
Yes.
That's fine.
I agree. And yeah, and I think just the discussion of the intent is really important, because sometimes, we just have to find the right words, or, we need to make those words count. And sometimes, you have better language than I do, or I can come up with a word that may be a little bit clearer than, it's just, I think that's a collaborative part of it.
Yes.
Because the intent, as we normally find out, the intent is usually the same. We all have the same kind of goals. So the intent asked, and we asked, what is this trying to accomplish? So I agree.
Yeah.
And that's what we will do.
And the wording of it, I mean, we both here will come to an agreement. It's like one of the articles where we basically wrote up the whole article. It wasn't a steadfast, like, we just didn't know exactly how to address, and we understand that the wording of it's gonna be changed, because to make it sound, one, to make it sound better, but two, so we can both understand the clearing of it. So,
Right, like that one paragraph that nobody knew what.
Yes, we're like, we know something doesn't sound right, but as long as we understand what it
But
is.
yeah, but we understand the intent and what that little paragraph was trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, absolutely. I think that our goal is to try to make this a very clear and unambiguous contract. That way everybody knows what the intent is, what the obligations are, what the contract stands for, and that it's a fair contract. And that's I think the ultimate goal.
Both of our goals.
Okay. Absolutely.
Sure.
Okay, so is there anything else? Oh, we need to finish the sign-in sheet.
We're actually missing the inventory.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we skipped one of our own, so.
Here we go. Yeah, and I guess while we're caucusing, we can look at the dates that will work for those last 2 weeks of August.
Yes.
And we can outline some, and you can reach out to Ralph or any of the
And we'll confirm with Ralph.
state reps that may need to be here.
I know Ralph, I think had said last time we had talked, between the 15th to the 26th, he was pretty much open, either himself or Leo Mendoza.
Right. Okay.
Pretty good on that. And we have one other member, he's running a little bit late, but he will be in later on today.
Okay.
So
What we can do is when he have him sign
Yes.
the sign-in sheets. So I guess we could each keep one right now, and then when that happens, we'll do that. Okay. Okay, very good. So we're gonna go into caucus, and I guess let's just keep in touch, and whenever.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Will it be a long one, so that we know what to plan? Couple of hours?
Yeah.
As long as they don't eat. For us, I mean, it won't be that long.
It won't be that long.
Oh, we could be here all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just plugging in the number because we didn't put a number specifically in the article, we just changed the date.
Okay.
So.
Yeah,
it
we'll
shouldn't be-
probably at least need about an hour,
Sure.
is what I'm
That's
thinking,
fine.
at least so we can have some proposals ready,
Okay, no problem.
finalized, and then we'll just continue working on.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and plug the numbers in and make sure we get the copies out, right? Because I think the last time we didn't make any copies of those articles, even though we do have the proposed changes.
Sure, and we don't have the printer, do we have the printer today?
We have one in Suburban.
Okay, so we have printers available.
Okay,
Okay, all right, thank you,
Great, thank you.
thanks.
Oh, do we want to get, him to sign? We need to do-
Yep, we're gonna do it on the record, just wait. We'll do it on the. And. Are we ready? Oh, it's on? Okay. Thank you all. It is, I'll look at my phone because my computer's always a few minutes behind. It's 1:59 PM. We're back in open session. We do have somebody from the Fire Association side that needs to sign
Yes.
on the sign-in sheet. There's the original.
Please.
Okay. And we have some proposals, while they're doing the signatures, we have some proposals, and I believe y'all have some proposals too.
Yes.
You want me to, do you want me to go first, and then
Yeah,
y'all do
sure,
that? And, okay, we'll do that. So, while we're getting the signature, these are in sets. I'm just gonna give you, we have 6 proposals. I'm just gonna hand them over all at once, and then I'll go through them one by one.
Okay.
And I'll announce them, but those are in packet. Your pen's already running out.
Yeah, get a little flip in it.
They're in packets. There are 6 proposals in each packet. They were separated.
One. Two, three. Four.
Okay. And then I'll go through the articles here. There should be 6, and just look through your packet to make sure you have the correct articles. I have Article, City of Laredo Proposal, Article 4.
Mhm.
City of Laredo Proposal, Article 7. City of Laredo Proposal, Article 10. City of Laredo Proposal, Article 17. City of Laredo Proposal, Article 19, and City of Laredo Proposal, Article 35. These are the proposals that we will have for today. We will have a few more proposals for the next meeting prepared. There was some items I still needed to clarify and finalize for the last few proposals, but I do anticipate having there may be a few, there's still a couple that we're deciding on some changes, but just for efficiency and so you know what to expect. And maybe you have a proposal already for it. For the next meeting, we should have 26 ready, 30, maybe 32, or at least a discussion on 32, and then 37. 37 is grievance procedure. I think one of the main issues that we really need to deal with there is the timing of the award. Make sure that we get it within 30 days.
Yes.
So, so that's one of the main issues I'm going through, and I've written a lot of grievance procedures. I've done a lot of arbitrations, and so procedurally, I just want to make sure that it gives everyone a fair opportunity and the due process is correct and that it's timely.
Yes.
I think that's the main issue that we've been dealing with another arbitration. So that's really, I'm focusing on that, and I'll have a proposal, but I'd like to discuss any other issues that come up, and we can maybe collaboratively, that's something that we could work on collaboratively because it is procedural.
Yes.
So, okay. But that one is kind of I want to make sure that we go through that one with a fine tooth comb and make sure we get all the bugs out of that little system.
Yep.
So let's start with Article 4. And this is the first time that I have negotiated for the city of Laredo. So I had some discussion with my team. Article 4 is a recognition of negotiating authorities. The only thing that we're proposing is in section 4.3 with regard to a union representative for the negotiation of intergovernmental contracts that involve fire and EMS services. I think that when I've spoke to my team and the history of this, it seems that the intent was to deal with intergovernmental contracts that have an effect or deal with fire and emergency medical services, something that would affect the firefighters, right? The way it was written, I know that was the intent, but the way it was written, it seemed that a union representative to do with fire or EMS or didn't have any kind of implications, and I don't believe that was the intent. And so what we're doing is providing just clarifying language. And it would be where the city elects to enter into an intergovernmental contract with the county of Webb or any other governmental entity or political subdivision of the state of Texas. And I just added clarity to provide fire and or emergency medical services. And if there's, and that would implicate or impact the firefighters or whatever they had to do. Then it would include one association representative who may provide opinions and voice issues. We added to the city's designated negotiating representative in an advisory capacity only during the negotiation process. And the reason we added to the city's designated negotiating representative is that the other side has really no duty to bargain, to negotiate that intergovernmental contract with somebody other than the city.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that the association representative is heard and that the issues are brought up and they can be present there. But, and you may be invited to offer on the other party, but we want to make sure that it doesn't interrupt the negotiation process or kind of impact it in a negative way. That I don't think that that's the intent that anybody has here.
Yeah.
So that's just our proposal in order to clarify, and we'd be happy to answer questions or listen to any ideas on this clarity. I think that when this provision came about with an intergovernmental contract that had to do with the provision of fire services with the county, I think. And so I got some background on that. And I believe, talking about the intent, I just want to make sure that it's clear and that we put in writing exactly what it was talking about, and it had to do with the provision of fire and EMS services pursuant to those contracts.
Yeah, to clarify that, I believe, and Ilan's here, he can speak further on it because this was before my time. During negotiations, I believe that was the intent because of the subcontracting before with the county of Webb, where that issue arose and
Right.
why it was driven. Like I said, if I'm wrong, that was the intent of the.
Well, the intent for it was at the time the contract with the county was, I think, 600,000 per year. And realistically, for the services that the county was getting was way more than that. We were providing, I mean, in the summertime, we're constantly out in grass fires for 24 hours a day. And these were like 2-week fires. Every shift you'd report and you were packing a lunch to go out there to be out there for 24 hours. And was to be able to make sure that we had a voice, so we would actually, if we do get into agreement with the county, one, fund the department fully for what it is, because there's times, and I work days where we had 4 trucks out in Mines Road, we had another 3 trucks out on 59, and we had another 2 trucks out in South Laredo, and I mean, we only had 15 And at the end of the day, we're not replenishing anybody here, which the taxpayer is actually putting the money for the fire service. And if that fire truck is not at that station because it's out 40 miles away from town, we're not really representing what our service that we provide for the public.
Right.
So we wanted somebody at the table to be able to voice that concern because, I mean, whoever made the deal before, I mean, realistically did not actually take into account the services we actually provide. And that wasn't only fire, it was EMS, it was hazmat, it was
And the operational impact.
if a plane crashed, I mean, we're doing our services, we're doing everything. So rescue, technical rescue. And I mean, you're depleting services from the city, from that person that's actually putting in the funding to fully staff the department, and they're not counting on you being out of service out somewhere else to go do it. So what we were trying to do is, hey, if you're gonna reach this agreement, make sure that it's fully funded. And I think at the time, Chief Landine had proposed, I think it was like a $7 million budget to the county. And they said they could do it cheaper and they went on their own, which is fine. I mean, they had the right to do that. But I mean, I think in the first year, they ended up spending a little bit more manpower, so we wouldn't deplete services here to the city and actually have satellite stations out in the county to fully fund it, right? But we just see that if something like this is put, I mean, we need to make sure that our guys are taken care of, because if we're a three-man crew and I take Jesus off to go fight a fire somewhere else because we have a contract with a different entity, well, now I'm two-man to go fight a structure fire here in the city of Laredo, or to go work a CPR code or a technical rescue or hazmat or anything else, which, I mean, that's not what we do. The more people we have, bodies on the truck is actually better for our services. I mean, we can't be going backwards on this.
Absolutely. And this proposal is not meant to, and the reason for the clarification is the way it's written is if the city were to try to negotiate an intergovernmental contract that had nothing to do with fire EMS or had nothing to do with the department, such as say like waste management. Say if they were doing that, then I don't believe that was what the rental contract that did not have anything to do with the duties or anything that
Well,
the fire
You'd be
EMS.
surprised, we've had our guys have to go and wash off bridge, the international bridge. I mean, realistically.
So, but if that's
That's not
pursuing,
a fire service. At the end of the day, we're tasked with that. So if we need to be at the table for certain things because now we're involved in it, and it doesn't
But that was
necessarily.
due to a hazmat spill, correct?
No,
What was it for?
it was for WBCA 3,
okay.
the processor.
So, and
So,
and we'd be
These are,
happy to
these are things
consider, right.
that you're depleting manpower and units from the city of Laredo when realistically, I mean, we're a 911 service.
And we understand that position, and what we're looking for is just to make sure that it's clear here in the contract, what intergovernmental contract negotiations are subject to this provision. And I think that, and we'd be that you believe are not included by the language that I proposed, but it's just really a clarification and nothing else.
Okay.
Is what the
Yeah,
intent is.
And I know I was here for when this was actually implemented, and I mean, it's geared so that we are not depleted of our personnel. That way that anytime that our services are needed, we are fully staffed and we are ready to go and mitigate whatever situation we're tasked with. And was the intent of that, because like I said before, the contract was really a low number and it really didn't fund even maybe a 10% of what we were actually giving services.
I think it was barely actually covering into the vehicles that were going out there, because, you know, most of the things we were responding to were EMS calls and grass fires out in there. So the wear and tear, the fuel, the resource of actually getting water out there, it was barely covering that. And we understand the intent of it, except to here it limits it to fire and EMS because of the entities that we actually have helped out in other avenues through that kind of limits it. So
impact EMS services, but if you're telling me that there's additional duties and the intergovernmental contract would include, that would not be classified as either fire or EMS, but it is a duty of a firefighter,
I mean,
I'm
yeah,
more
I
than,
mean,
we're more than happy to.
we've
to
had
get-
trained
to get-
rumblings out in the
Sure.
county where we're doing hazmat, and, I mean, it's just a number of things. I think there was a rescue, a guy fell into a well, out in the county. So technical rescue teams taking their trailers out there and they're setting up and trying to get the patient out. So, I mean, it's a broad aspect of the services that we provide. And the way it's written right now, I mean, you're just basically saying, I'm gonna put water on the fire and it might
No,
sound
and that's what I'm saying, that's not
So-
the intent, when I'm saying fire services, it usually includes the rescue team
No,
or hazmat or anything else that is encompassed in firefighting
I think it needs
duties.
to be
So if-
specified in the language then.
Okay, if anything, and the intent is that, I understand that, so
Yeah.
I'd be happy to consider the language and some, and it merely is a clarification.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that, we're not dealing with intergovernmental contracts that have nothing to
Nothing to
do
do,
with the firefighters
Yeah,
to deal with it. And
And
we're, and other than that, we're really not doing anything with the provision other than making that clarification, which is what the intent was and what's already been done.
and
We don't mean to change
Like I said,
anything.
the original intent for this was to actually staff the fire stations in the city of Laredo, in the corporate city fully, whether they were out on another assignment because of an a whole station out, you can call in overtime to come in and staff that station. We have reserve trucks in the city that we can put in service, and they can still respond out of that station. And a lot of the times that wasn't being done.
So is that part of the this provision
Well, this
only
is-
goes to the actual
Yeah.
negotiation of the
This is why,
intergovernmental
yeah, this is
contract?
why we wanted a seat at the table, to be able
Right.
to voice our concerns, because, I mean, if I'm out at a station that I know I'm 10 minutes away from any fire truck that's closest to me because the other units are out, I mean, that 10 minutes is a long time if I'm fighting a fire, and by the time we're doing as our duty. So, we wanted a seat at the table to be able to voice our concerns, because, I mean, when you call 911, 1 second feels like an hour. Now imagine us and on air inside a fire, fighting a fire with the heat stress and everything else going on, whether we're doing a rescue or fighting the actual fire, and you know that the closest truck is 5-10 minutes away, that's an eternity. I mean, you need the manpower right then and there. So we just wanted to be able to be at the table and say, hey, you know what, these are our concerns for safety for our guys. Because, I mean,
Sure,
we never know when it's gonna happen, but when it does happen, we need it.
right.
So-
And the alternative, the other side of that is also a lot of these intergovernmental situation, and the county or whatever other entity has resources that are closer to that,
Yes,
then that kicks in, those are the negotiations and the provisions of
Well,
the
and the-
contract that come in to help with
and that
that
was
also.
a problem too, because in the past, we would be out there at these grass fires, and these trucks they worked with those cities, getting mad at you because they're using their hydrants to get water to go put out the fire. They had the state or the Webb County employees, they had the water truck, they would fill it there at the facility on 59. But after 5 o'clock, those guys would go home. So from 8 to 5, we were good. After that, we had to drive all the way back to the city of Laredo, fill up with water, go and continue to fight the fire. So it's a
It
big
provides,
problem,
yeah,
because at the interlocal agreement, a lot of times, like, if you're not on the line and you're not the working personnel, which a lot of these guys are, you don't get your voice heard, because you're looking at numbers and you're looking at this and you're looking at that. But what about the safety of the guys?
right.
And that was the reasoning why we wanted to be at the table.
Absolutely.
So
You
the
get a
scope of-
perspective from, so.
Like I said, we understand the intent, and that was our intent of when it was first negotiated, like I said, before my time. The only thing is that the umbrella, the scope where this includes, the way it's written right now, which we would have to come back with a counter
Of
proposal.
course.
You have to, widen out because the different services were being branched out for, I know in the past, and this wasn't the county, but this was actually to the hospitals, or because their water was shut down, we went to go relay with our pump.
Okay.
So things, things of nature like that, that normally wouldn't be thought of as, well, that doesn't pertain to the fire department because it's not fire and EMS, but
So is it only for outside the city limits or also with?
no,
No, it's interlocal
this
agreement.
is-
So if we,
I'm saying like in cases ever,
there's a state agency where they will equip us with tankers, but the provision is that anytime there's a big incident in the state of Texas, you deploy that tanker. So you have to provide the manpower and everything else that goes with it.
So
And in
what
that
would
event,
happen in an emergency where we don't have an interlocal with that someone and we have to mobilize quickly for whatever reason?
we,
What
in,
contingency do we have?
I know.
in that aspect, it's city, either the county judge or the city manager of whatever the entity is will reach out to the city of Laredo.
Well, yeah, we have a declaration of emergency
Yeah.
declarations, but what if
In-
there's no time
In
and
that
something
event, I
major
mean,
happens?
you can't control what
And
the,
you all would,
something like that. I
would
mean,
call?
we've been deployed before for a tornado in Pepperville, and it was, they made a phone call, hey, send your equipment out there. There's structures that are collapsed and possible people stuck inside. So we hooked up all our trailers, and we went to the staging area in Pepperville. You can't predict what's gonna happen for natural disasters or anything in an emergency situation. But if there is time to sit down and talk and say, hey, well, you know what, we're going to enter this local agreement, but now we're going to task your department with more work. Well, wait a minute, what's the work going to entail? And can we sit down and actually talk about it? Because we need to make sure that it's fully staffed and it's ready to go. Not only that they're taken care of, but also the city is taken
because
care of.
now this is what I'm thinking of, we just sent some firefighters over to assist with firefighting
Yes.
in another county.
Mhm.
Would this also be part of the negotiations that you want to be part of the table on? Because this is with the state, and so when the state calls and say, hey, can you send us some people? We've always done it without someone at the table.
But these aren't necessarily
The contract.
staffed for a long term.
Yeah.
Well,
We've had one that lasted almost a year.
well, that was COVID. Again, we're talking about instances that realistically no one has ever seen before, and we have to act. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that if 4 bodies are out, 4 bodies.
Or COVID, is it something that you want to, I just want clarification.
Well, we just want to make sure that we're fully staffed and we're ready to go to be able to complement whatever we're sending resources out. And if it's gonna be a full detail, that it's gonna be a long-term deal, then maybe we need to look at hiring more people and fully funding this thing, because at the end of the day, you're taking one guy off a truck, one guy off a truck, one guy off a truck, and
We can't hire more people within less than 18 months.
yes. But, I mean, if you're foreseeing this thing's gonna go for the long term, we wanna be at the table to be able to discuss this stuff, because, I mean, we know what it takes, 1, to get an academy graduated out of here. 2, we pretty much foresee guys that are leaving, and we actually approach the city numerous times and tell them, hey, you know what, we're looking at probably a lot of guys retiring, we need to start thinking about the manpower, just because the academy takes so long. So we just want to be able to be there to make sure that it doesn't hold back any of the standard operations that we are already providing for the city of Laredo. So, I mean, you call 911 and we're there. If we're starting to do all this extra stuff and we're not actually funding it because it was overseen, well, we want to be there to be able to address an issue and say, hey, well, you know what, this is where we're at, this is what it's causing. We need to be able to come to an agreement so that we can, I mean, continue to provide the service that we provide for the citizens here in Laredo.
So, and you have had that advisory representative.
County decided to go in a different direction.
Okay.
So, I mean, and then realistically, I mean, at the end of the day, if the city of Encinitas comes in and says, hey, you know what, we need your fire services, we want to get into a local agreement. Okay,
Right.
well, 1, how long does it take my closest unit to get there? Or is it better if I build a station? Well, you know what, if you guys want to enter a local agreement, then maybe we need to talk about sharing costs so that we can actually
Sure,
get it.
and that's all part of that negotiation.
Yes.
So yes, and so we don't want to change any of that intent.
Yes,
I just don't, what I see when I'm looking here is if somebody, and you know, it could potentially be a contractual grievance. The way it's written, because it was intended to, whatever it's impacted by the duties that the firefighters provide. The way it's written, it says it would be any governmental contract. And I know that that's not the intent, and I think both sides are agreed, and I don't want
for 10, 12 years, and there has not been a grievance brought up, and at the end of the
But-
day, the union president is in charge of filing any grievances that he sees fit.
right.
And for the most part, because of this language, we're able to actually approach the chief and talk to for certain things, so it hasn't been an issue.
Okay, but, and I want to make sure that it's clear, we have the opportunity to make sure that the intent and the provision is clear. And I think that I mean, did the union intend to be involved in every intergovernmental contract?
I mean,
Basically,
every
That's the question I have.
anytime that we were being, either contracted to work somewhere else, or
Right,
well, I guess subcontractor, because they're dealing, the two entities are dealing with the department of the city where, like I said, the funds weren't coming in, it was depleting the city's funds, while depleting also the response of the fire department, because of the fact that these types of response. Now, back then, it was more just fire and EMS, but now our services encompass a lot more of that.
okay.
So that wording kind of limits it. So
And
we
and
have to- have to be more consistent.
I invite some additional language for that.
and it-
What I'm trying to avoid is we have the opportunity here to make the contract better. And because y'all, this contract and this provision can live on forever. You know, as long as this contract goes on, you know, we can negotiate and people can continue negotiating, we're not gonna be here. And maybe they get a copy of our record, maybe they don't. And if we want the intent to be clear, this is the opportunity to have that clear language here. And what I'm saying is, we're not taking away anything from what was already there. I just want to make sure that it's clear, because I don't want some firefighter later on to say, well, we didn't have a union representative at this intergovernmental contract that had absolutely nothing to do with the firefighters or any of the services that they provide, including all the ones that you're talking about, whether it be water, hazmat, rescue, fire, EMS, anything like that. And then now we have to deal with the contractual agreements that could potentially go to arbitration, and that was never the intent. And so completely, we understand, and we're in agreement. That's why this provision is in there, that we know that the boots on the ground are gonna be the ones that provide the real world perspective as to what issues come up that aren't, people negotiating the contract may not know, you know? And so we agree with that. And all we wanna do is tighten up the language so that we don't have, so that it doesn't create more work for the union to say, no, we're not gonna do this grievance, and then that causes issues there. That the city's not worried about, like, well, you know, even though we know what the intent is, the words kind of don't match the intent. And that's the purpose of our clarification. That's all it is to tighten it up and prevent, make sure that everything is clear. So.
We know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
It's just, I get it.
I agree. Okay. Okay, on Article 7, one of the proposals, one of the assets that the city is putting forth, and this is to be taken in conjunction with with the ultimate provision for negotiation of the contract, is that we're proposing to change the 2 tested deputy fire chiefs to 1 tested fire chief, and then deputy fire chiefs. And the change in this provision would not affect anybody that is in position right now, and it would only be effective upon the next retirement of a deputy chief. So it would not affect anybody's position. Right now, it wouldn't affect anything like that, or the command staff. Here, the chief wants to have the ability and the commands to establish his team and establish a cohesive team. And this is one of the, most cities have where most of the command staff is appointed. It would be the same, we're setting up for future fire chiefs, it would have all the same requirements, all the same standards that are required to move up to that rank.
Which cities are you referencing?
San Antonio is one.
San Antonio is one, I don't have my list with me, but I can provide that to you. I'll
How
provide
many
that.
appointed do they have?
No, all of them, all of them.
There's several cities that have all.
The whole command staff? The
Well,
administrative?
but the top chiefs.
So even the fire marshal?
Oh, well, the fire marshal,
This is
I don't know if the
question.
fire marshal is.
No, but I'm trying to get clarification on how
We'll find out.
another department.
Well, I'll find that out, but what we're talking about is the top ranks. Most of
The
the
deputies.
top ones are the three, the one right under the chief, and then the next one is the ones that we're talking about, and that's what we're dealing with here. I think most of the time, the deputy chief,
The marshal would stay the same on this one.
some of the other cities.
Clarification of other cities.
Some of the other cities have, the rank system is a little bit different, where they have the deputy chief is right under the fire chief, and then they have the assistant fire chiefs. Here it's opposite, it's the assistant fire chief is right under the chief, and then we have the deputy chief, so we're talking about these two, those are the two ranks that we're talking about. And so we will provide, we've looked on what other cities had done, and we will compile that information and provide it to you. I do have.
But this is a proposal set forth by y'all, and y'all don't have the information on it?
I do have the information, I don't have it in front of me,
Okay,
is what I'm saying.
I mean, we need more clarification on that. That I know of, I don't know a lot of departments that have too many appointed positions. They're mostly all tested,
I got it.
and,
Don't do that.
oh, I'm not mad.
Don't
No,
do
no,
that.
I'm not mad. I just,
So which cities do you have that, are you
It's
identifying?
normally the assistant chief, is the one appointed. There are some certain ones that do have like certain command staff, but for the most part, every position is tested. And I
But
mean,
which cities are those that you're referring to then?
I know McAllen, one, Mission, Wasaco, they appoint San Juan. I think Brownsville also, appoints certain positions. But I mean, it's to an extent, it's not an overreach where you get a new fire chief and then all of a sudden, everybody in administrative staff is
But we're not asking
it's
for,
gone, and then now you have a new group come in, which, I mean, sometimes change is good, but at the end of the day, you still need those tested positions there with the experience and the knowing of what the long-term has been when the new personnel comes in and starts getting appointed, so that they have some of the background as to why certain things were done. And if you start taking away from that, I mean, you lose that. And there's been times before where we get one fire chief and he's gone, and then by the time we know it, the next fire chief is there, and then, hey, you know what, we need a station over here. Hey, let's start looking into it. Well, the old fire chief had already something set up to where we were gonna get property.
There is information, it's called a 5-year capital improvement plan that is adopted by the city. Fire department does not stand alone, it's a city department, and we have a city plan. And so those examples that you're providing do not hold very strongly with me personally, because we have a 5-year plan of where Cielito Lindo is going to be, or the Unitec, or the airport and all that. So there is a plan that is provided for 5 years.
But the thing is also, I mean,
So-
if you have a new chief and he's not under the understanding, or even if who's gonna be giving that perspective to continue to push that 5-year plan? Because I know 16's been on the books for at least maybe, 15 years? And it's been a long. If we're having this rotating door to where some of the stuff gets lost in transition to the new administration, I mean, We don't have that voice going over there to be able to push.
So what we're asking is not, for all appointments.
Yes.
We're asking for one
Mhm.
one tested position to be changed to a one appointed position. And so in the long term,
I mean, this
that can,
this even dabbles into, if I was a fire chief and you know what, I had a buddy that's gonna retire in 2 years, I appoint him, he's a captain, I appoint him and I bump up his pay. And now he's on the pension books at a deputy chief pay because he's my buddy. And then at the end of the day, he's collecting a
So
retirement check that doesn't
if I may
reflect.
continue,
Yes.
let me go ahead and finish first. All of this, the standards and requirements to be good, to go up to the deputy chief is still the same.
Yes.
It's not a buddy system.
No.
An appointment has the same requirements. It requires the same training, the same assessments, all of that stuff. So in order to be certain ranks, they have to have a certain level of training and education. They have to have a certain level or pass the, specific assessments. So, the management of this department it's not something to toy around with. The chief takes it extremely seriously, and that's one of the goals that he has, is to make sure that he has a cohesive team that he can utilize to properly manage the operations and the safety of all firefighters. And so that's just, something that as a fire chief and trying to operate and make the fire department as successful as it can be, and to keep it being as successful as it has been, that's one of the things that we are asking for. I don't know that the changing of just one position is going to cause a fall of dominoes that you've been explaining. There's a lot of mechanisms set forth here in the city in order to make sure that the improvements and the succession and the continuation of projects in the best interest of the city, including this fire department and its firefighters, continues. It's not just a one-man show. This is this is a whole mechanism that has to work together. And so there's lots of so this is not to throw anything off gear, throw a wrench in anything. This is just something that we are proposing,
So I think,
and that we're proposing from
I think
the,
chapter 143, specifies something in the rank system and testing and everything else to get the most qualified candidate in
That's
certain
correct.
aspects.
The one aspect of this that changes the dynamics of the way the departments run is that in case it will, Chief Ray is here right now, but in the future, when a new chief gets appointed, you're having an overturn of 4 of the 6 administrative positions in the department, because now you have the fire chief being appointed, you have probably a new assistant chief being appointed if he wants in a command staff, along 3 tested and 3 appointed. So the cohesiveness still has to be there, but at the same time, the dynamics of the administration doesn't change that drastic, as opposed to from one day to the next, you have 4 new administrators in a department where, because of one appointment, it triggers a domino effect on everybody else.
so Chief Hurd is a fairly new chief, appointed chief, right? What was the transition in assistant chiefs and deputy chiefs when he came on board?
So when Chief Lundin retired, because Chief Hurd, we were in the middle of the pandemic, Chief Hurd asked for the assistant fire chief to stay on, right? Which he did, right? And he, because he needed that, that experience behind him. But sometimes that's not, in past practices, if the fire chief's out, so is the assistant, right? This is probably, I guess, a new case,
So Chief
With
Lundin
different-
had Chief,
Piton.
after that was Chief.
Chief Reyna.
No, before that, after that. it starts with a G. He moved to
Betty
Betty
White.
White.
No, Chief Reyna was first.
Yeah, it was Reina, and it was Garibay,
It was
and
between
Betty
Betty
White,
Piton,
and
and
Betty White.
Elizondo.
Chief Reyna wasn't with him, he was with Sonny.
He was running,
When
but he was here,
when-
but he had to retire when Chief Landon came in.
Yeah.
And so he had 4.
So what we're saying is it's different, like for Chief Hurt, right? He came in, before, like, to give you an example, Chief Tomas Ramirez, when he retired, Chief Polo Martinez, the assistant chief, had retired also, right? So that's
That
what
wasn't
he's.
automatic for them back then.
Well,
for
not
them.
automatic, but it was more like,
It was
Understood.
understood, it was understood that the
Understood.
chief is out, the assistant chief goes along with him. In this case, because of COVID and the fact of how the administration had, basically, through the retirement, was gonna be left in a position where the seniority of the people there wasn't gonna be there, so Chief Elizondo,
But they have the
Well, I
option to go back to the line.
yes,
if for
as
whatever
our,
reason.
as our last.
They have that
justification.
option.
And I think overall, like anytime the city appoints a new fire chief, you're looking for somebody that's a people person, right? They're able to work with the people that are
there.
under him, as well as work with the city. So I mean, we want that, cohesiveness as a command staff. And I think maybe as a counter proposal, maybe adding an additional, assistant chief under, and leaving the current, I think maybe
It's all
that's
about
something
money
that,
at the end.
Yes.
and I mean, if he feels like he
Well,
needs more people around him.
And the
you know.
long-term thing also, I mean, it's about the money. If a promotion is from captain rank to now an assistant chief, or now to a deputy chief, you're talking about a difference in pay. And like I said, normally it's gonna be a senior guy that's appointed. He's probably maybe about 5 years from retirement, and then now we're gonna have to cover that on the books for the long term once he leaves, when he would have been at a captain's rank. Fully funded, and that's where the guy actually belongs. And he's been putting into the retirement system and doing everything the way it's supposed to be, and it's not as bad on the books at the end of the day once he separates from the department and retires. So, I mean, we've seen that. I mean, we're talking about Landin's tenure here. I mean, how many assistant chiefs has he been through? How many deputy chiefs has he been through? And then now we have Chief Hurd. He's got his command staff in, but again, they're senior guys, right? Because, I mean, he's getting his people to be able to be there so that in his meetings, he gets his agenda, what he foresees the fire department doing to be able to pass. It's just, if you have a tested position there, I mean, I don't see how that person is not qualified to go into that meeting and be able to voice his concerns, and then to come out with something positive at the end of the day that we can actually implement, whether it's an SOP, whether it's a direction the department's gonna change into, and certain stuff that we do. Because, I mean, you have qualified people there to do it. I just think that if you do have a guy that's tested in there into the position that actually put the time in to actually be in that office and do the operations Monday through Friday, day in, day out, that's the guy that I want. That's the guy that's gonna be the most qualified, because he has the drive to actually be in that position.
So, and I didn't understand about the positions being fully funded. Are you saying the appointed positions are not fully funded?
Well, I mean, it's a differential in pay depending where they come from. We can go all the way down to a captain rank. So you're talking about it from a captain, if you just look at the pay scales from captain to assistant chief, I mean, that's a big jump.
Right, but
And
the,
if you're
but
gonna
the,
be
but the
there-
position is authorized and fully funded though, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so they're all fully funded.
They're
What
fully
you're
funded,
talking-
but
what
what we're
you're-
talking about, the books, once they hit retirement, we start falling into that deal to where, okay, well, you know what, he didn't test for deputy, he didn't test for district chief, he didn't test for deputy, but now he's the assistant chief. Well, that there's a difference in pay that now we're gonna have to commit to for the rest of his life.
But you would have to do that for any deputy chief that would be in that position.
If
correct?
they were
But
tested,
we
if they
would
were
have to
tested,
do it
they
for
were
an
actually.
additional person. That's
for
what you're
day
saying.
one,
We're
they're-
doing it now for
for
one
day one
person,
equipment.
but you're adding an additional, person, instead of, like Ms. Gabriel says, add an additional spot, is gonna create, I guess it's about the money, it's gonna cost something, but if, on our end, it'll cost something too, when it comes to the pension.
Yes, and I mean.
Okay,
Chief
I probably
Landing
need
had-
a little bit more information on that, because, I'm not, I guess I just need to, I'm trying to understand how it would add, funding an additional person, or or where that gap is, because and that you're expecting that that position is subject to the pension, and that should already be accounted for. I'm just trying to make sure I don't understand where that argument is coming from. I just need more information, so. Okay. So we have some questions to answer on this particular one for you, and then I guess I don't know if there's any kind of information that you could provide to us so that we can, so I can understand what y'all are talking about. I know it's a real issue that you're bringing forth, and I just want them to be able to understand it. And I just don't right now, just because I'm not familiar with how that pension system would work. So
I mean, it's just, I guess the basic is we're funding somebody to be separated from the department for the rest of their life, right?
But how?
I mean, it's like a pension check, right?
The retirement.
Oh, because you were saying early
oh,
retirement.
you're saying they're gonna retire early?
No,
Oh, I thought during the time, I was like.
I mean, if you
No,
look,
yeah,
I mean,
we're
I
talking
can
about-
count, it was Chief Piton, it was Chief Reina, it was Chief Elizondo, Chief Garibay. You're talking about four chiefs from probably about, what, 2008 to now? Those are assistant chiefs. Now, one was coming from a district chief rank, a couple of them were deputy chiefs. There's been some chiefs that have come from the captain rank. And now you're saying that, okay, well, I'm gonna appoint you, you don't have to test for the position, but now I just bumped your salary, so if you live 25 years, 30 years after retirement, you're realistically not making the rank you were at, you're making a higher number.
They're contributing more too.
But for the small time.
So
that
small
they're-
time.
Well, okay, but, if I'm gonna take that type of position, I'm gonna get ready to retire anyway, pretty soon. I'm thinking retirement, so I'm gonna take the risk of being up here. So it's going to benefit the pension fund anyway, because you're gonna be earning more money to be able to put more money into it.
So we're gonna be
It-
paying
it's-
you, for the 5 years you put in, I'm paying you 30 years
But that's
out the
the-
door.
Well, but
There's no
you're,
So
difference.
it's,
There's no difference when we're working the overtime and that's what's happening at the end with a regular firefighter.
which is.
so, but
hopefully we change that.
wouldn't a lower ranked firefighter who maybe not been there as long have more of a tenure, potential for tenure in a higher position?
But then
Because
that,
I don't know, are you just saying that automatically because it's an appointed position that person's gonna retire early?
I mean, would I want to get a guy that's 2 years in to be representative of me about if I leave, the city and he's in charge? Or
I
do
mean,
I want
can
to
you be a
tenure?
captain at 2
Do I
years?
do-
No.
Okay, well then,
Well,
I don't,
you can be here for 4 years, you're
So-
still learning new stuff.
right, and those requirements are still in place. So I'm just trying to understand how changing it to an appointed position would automatically make somebody retire earlier.
Because now the numbers look better for him to retire. I mean, if I'm planning to retire at 55 and now all of a sudden I get a pay bump because I went from captain to assistant chief, maybe my years went from 55 to 50.
But there's no difference when you're working a lot more overtime or going off on special duty, that could occur too.
And that's what we're trying to change.
But you
Who
have a
determines
choice.
You know, that vote's coming pretty soon, I hope,
who determines the
Yeah.
rules for the pension system?
the pension.
The pension board.
The pension board,
You're
right?
part of the pension board too,
No.
not anymore?
Okay, and the pension board is the statutory pension? Is that,
There's a city-sponsored pension.
We're
oh,
involved,
city-sponsored
But
pension?
we're trying to make sure that it's stable.
Okay, so we have, city-sponsored pension that is run, and its benefits are run by a pension board that the city doesn't have control over.
They have representatives.
We
in-
have representatives, but the
So-
city doesn't control the actual pension board. It's the board, the governing body of that pension is the actual board. They're the ones that approve any action with regard to the benefits, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and,
They put it out to the membership, but the membership ultimately is the one that votes.
Okay,
and, I mean, it's that, I know certain articles in this contract are in to address certain issues that we're having, and we are still gonna go up for a vote to make certain benefit cuts to be able to keep our pension afloat. But like I said, like, you're talking about 4 just assistant chiefs, And how long were their tenures here? Like, I mean, the first assistant chief that was there was maybe a year and a half, and then he was gone. And then the one that was appointed after that was probably another year, and then he was gone. And then you get the next one, he was probably in 2 years, he was gone, you know? So, I mean, you're bumping up for the long term, and it's another article in the contract. And if I'm able to appoint whoever I want, or whoever I think is qualified for the job, I mean, you're talking about guys are looking at their futures, guys are already have a set plan. I have a set plan right now at my rank, but if I make another rank, guess what? My years might have gone down because of it. But I'm in such a position. I'm deciding to qualify myself to be in that position, and then I take that new role. I'm in for the time that I'm looking at, and I'll go and I'll look at my numbers and see what my plan is now, because the dynamics have changed to it. So you're looking at probably, I mean, anytime somebody goes up in rank, I mean, their financial future for the long term changes just for the fact because you got a pay increase.
Like currently, what years of service or what age can you retire under your pension?
Right now, you take a big penalty, it's 45 with 20 years of service, but you're taking, I think, what is it, 40%?
45, yeah, because of the penalty.
So there's penalties. You can fully retire at 50. But then again, like if you're doing a 30-year career, your body should not even be here anymore because you've taken a beating throughout your career. I mean, so guys are looking at when I do retire from the fire department, am I gonna be health-wise fine to move around and do what I normally do? Or am I gonna be like, I mean, in a wheelchair or walker? And we've had these cases where these guys, I mean, they do their whole career here and within a year or two, they pass, you know? Just because.
I guess just to make a long story short,
lifestyle.
that is one of the issues. When I say the other issue that brought up is the dynamics of the department, how it works, is gonna see a drastic change, because like I say, it is gonna be an influx of 4 people out of the 6. So we'll come back with wording on that.
I think overall, it's just a fairer process. I think you give more guys a chance to be able to test into it, you know. I think, you know, the guys that test at those spots, they're highly qualified, you know, they take their profession seriously. They're highly educated, you know, and you just create one less spots for a lot of the firefighters on the line to be able to, you know, move up in ranks and to fall into one of those positions. I think that's one of the things that, you know, that I see a problem.
I'd be interested to see what cities are our size, what their command staff is. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that more than likely they probably have more positions than we do, just because I know the system that we've had over the years has not changed. Was added maybe 05 or 04. So, I mean, we've grown probably double that size in the department, and we still have the same command staff operating. So, I mean, I think we're probably behind in that aspect. And if it's proposed that where we actually open up another appointed position, I mean, I think that benefits the chief because it's another resource that he has to be able to accomplish the growing department that we have. I mean, I think the 5-year plan right now is 2 more stations, right? 3. So, I mean, we're even behind in that. And if you're looking at a chief and operating with his manpower, I mean, even at the fire scenes, after so many units, we need to call another chief in because the span of control is already above his scope, because now he has more trucks than he can actually direct at a call. So we call in another chief to be able to come and take command of certain units and then other units too. So I'm pretty sure if you were able to open up what's going on with this department, and we've only grown in the past 23 years that I've been here to where, I mean, you can find something for that guy to do, and it's going to be needed in the long run. So
Look at that.
Okay.
we're growing.
And we'll provide you with the information that you've asked, and if I think I understand on the tension, but any information that would bring clarity to that issue, yeah, would be appreciated.
The concern is the pension, then why are you so willing to add another appointed chief, where now you have another new position with more stress on the pension? How's that any better?
Was that any better?
We're not at.
For the funding, because there is money.
Because someone's gonna move up.
So-
The point he's making is, someone's gonna move up, it's the same effect,
Just saying, even more stress.
even more stress.
But it's another body now putting into,
No, because you'll have a vacancy down below, because you don't start accounting for one position that moved up. So it's more stress on the pension at that point.
there's certain things we're addressing to be able to hopefully offset some of that stuff, but, I mean, the body on paper is gonna be there. There is a trigger that after a certain amount, you're gonna have to fund an academy to be able to bring those people in. So the intent is actually to have our max personnel at what we're 408,
407.
407, so, I mean, you're looking at, right now, we're probably what, 360?
360.
We're also, but I think we have 22 over hires in the debt right now, so really we have more people, because the debts are also coming in.
Which helps, yeah. So, I mean, even adding another position, you have that person in a spot funding that position, from the rank of firefighter all the way up, from the promotions that would take place because you appointed. It is a funded position. It's not funded when you appoint somebody else, and at the end of the day, it doesn't reflect what he's gonna end up taking in the long term when he leaves.
We'll go ahead and move on to the next one.
All right, idea.
We can leave it all day.
Let's see, Article 10, duty hours. Here on the first, proposed change is just a kind of a clarifier. Under 10.3, it says, it used to read, for the purpose of preventing a DNR. And DNR is, when they first read it and they don't know what DNR means, have to flip it over. I just added did not report.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and change it on all A through G, also on 10.6, or are we just gonna refer to them? We know why it's done, but like.
From that definition.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, it's in the definitions, but just for ease, and,
A quick reference of when you're actually reading the article. I understand.
right.
I'm saying
And
if you all wanted to change those also, or.
no, I think if you just at the beginning of the article put did not report and put DNR, and then the rest of the references to DNR, I think that can remain the same. It was just so that you don't have to actually flip back to the definitions, even though it does say in the definitions, DNR equals did not report.
It's fine with us, we just wanna make sure our guys are reading the contract.
Yeah.
So that was my proposed change, or the city's proposed change, not mine. But, on 10.4, this is with regard to exchanges, and there was the fire station's chief, and I'm probably not doing this right, I'm probably supposed to be reading the whole thing. 10.4 says firefighters may be granted up to 5 exchanges per month upon the approval of the fire station's district chief, captain, or acting captain. Further, provided that the person filling in as part of the exchange is qualified to perform the duties for the person requesting the exchange, and that such exchange will not disrupt normal fire department operations. Shift changes will be paid back hour per hour. Date of payback must be stated on work exchange form, but may be changed as needed and is agreed upon by the employees, and we're proposing to add, and as approved by the station's district chief, captain, and acting captain. And the only reason for this change is for operational purposes, because when there are initially when you get the exchange, it has to be approved by those, either the supervisor, either the district chief, the captain, or the acting captain. And then later on the payback, sometimes it's altered without the supervisors knowing, and then they don't know who's going to show up. And so that's basically just a kind of making sure operationally that if there's an alteration to the payback on the exchange, that a district chief, a captain or an acting captain just sign off on it or approve it, just so they know who to expect. I think there's been some instances where the payback has been changed at the last minute by agreement, of course, but then the supervisor doesn't know who's showing up or didn't expect that person to show up. And we're just trying to fix that gap so that there's not a lapse in some sort of fire department operations or response or anything like that. And that's the reason for that proposal.
Just to clarify, so can it get denied by the supervisor?
I think that's something that we've
Because
come across in the
just,
past.
Have you?
Like if you do work in exchange, I mean, just for hypothetically, you and me, right? You work for me, then when I go for you, can your supervisor deny mine?
So
You know what
I
I'm saying?
think, so
The
I
hours that are
think,
owed to you? Just a question.
so
just for my
this is
head.
a way, and maybe that's something we need to look at, because as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when you get the shift exchange approved, it already has the payback time.
Yes.
Okay, so that's already approved. This additional is if it's a last minute or like a change in the payback time after the fact that it's been approved. So I'm guessing and I don't know, y'all can educate me on this, but I don't know there may be a situation where it just doesn't work and the supervisor will say, well, I can't do that, it's gonna have to be for the original.
Notice, I think maybe it's something that they wouldn't be able to possibly cancel. I guess just because I guess when you enter into an agreement with a person, it's between you and that person, and we don't want that agreement for whatever reason to be able to be denied.
Right here, yeah, okay. Let me, we will take that suggestion and let me run it with my team and see and just further evaluate, make sure that it addresses the impact on operations that we're trying to address. But I think, that is a good
We're both
consideration.
in the same boat when we kind of want to make sure operational, the impact on the operational process isn't,
Right,
disrupted,
that's-
right? But I think, I just want to make sure that there's clarification.
Yeah, because
Can the supervisor turn around and basically?
the way it's read there, other people can interpret it to mean something completely different that we are not intending, either was intended to do. So because the way it reads there is that if I'm gonna change it because, I didn't need the day after all, or that couldn't work for me, for whatever reason, he let me know, hey, I can't work because family illness, whatever. All right, let me go ahead and change it. Now, upon that change, if for whatever reason they have, any other reason, they say, no, you can't do it, he has to work for you. Well, how is he gonna work for me if he literally can't?
yeah, and I
guess
think
that's what we're trying to avoid.
right, and I think the operational impact is, a supervisor should know what crew to expect.
Yeah.
And we will take that suggestion.
Yeah, I think
And,
providing notice
and let
with,
me just run it by my team and run all the traps and see if it accomplishes, I don't think I missed anything, but if I'm missing something, I need to visit with my team. But that's the operational aspect of that, and, just the little missing piece that I think, would make things flow a little bit better. Okay. All right. On Article 17, additional hours. Here, the first big, just addition that we made was, when you look at the provisions, specifically 17.1 and 17.2, it was hard to decipher what it was really talking about. So what I did was just add 17.1, added in bold the beginning, it's callback, because as you read this provision does talk about callback. And the rest of the provision stays the same. Callback is in any situation where an employee is required to work additional time, the employee shall be paid for a minimum of 4 hours, provided that the employee works for the 4 hours. If the employee and employer agree, however, that the employee will work less than the minimum 4-hour work period, then the employee shall only be paid for the actual hours worked. And this is for when the firefighter is off duty and actually gets called back into duty, and which could potentially, I think most of the time, be overtime, correct? 17.2, I added. And there's another change in this provision. It's in any situation when an employee is asked to work additional time, the employer shall specify the amount of time to be worked in accordance with the original is of 4-hour work period intervals. The employee shall be paid for the full work period, provided that the employee works the full work period. And so we want to make clear that this is for stayover. This is when you're on duty, getting off duty, and maybe the person that's relieving you from duty either calls in sick or is late or something, and the supervisor needs additional time to fill in that vacancy. This allows the 2 hours. Right now, it seems that the 4 hours, a 4-hour commitment to stay over when they were already planning on being off duty. So what this is rather than 4-hour intervals, we're moving it to 2-hour intervals to allow the firefighter who's coming off of duty to not be there so long, longer than necessary, and enjoy their day off. And so it won't affect any future, maybe possible overtime that they had been planning, or a switch, or, some other exchange, or whatever else that is. So this is in 2-hour work period intervals, and so it doesn't commit the firefighter to have to stay for 4 hours, even though they're able to.
The firefighter's not committed to stay. And most times, the guys show up maybe 20 minutes after 8, and they'll do their report, and when they're done, they clock out with an overtime sheet for the hours that they were actually working. They leave by like 8:45, 9 o'clock.
Well, it cleans it up, right?
Okay, so then this cleans it up, and it gives it in 2-hour intervals, because as I understand it, it's usually within the hour or two that they're able to find somebody to fill the vacancy.
Just for
Right.
clarification, if I'm not mistaken, I think stayover would be the first one. Because the second one is where they call you to come into work. The second one is anytime you're asked to come to work for additional time. The first one is when you're coming off a shift and you at 8. Half 2 hours, you come back to the station, you usually sign off for 1 hour of overtime, you go home at 9 a.m. The second one is when they call you for, because it says the employer shall specify the amount of time to be worked. So that's when they call you and ask you, hey, can you come work 8 hours? Can you come
Okay,
work 12
so you're
hours?
saying that it's opposite.
Yeah.
The opposite, yes.
Yes.
So it's interesting, because if you it could be, I guess we need to work on this a little bit more, because there is some confusion here, because when I read it and when we were discussing it, the callback was the first one and the stayover was the second one. So,
Our understanding is the complete, like you say, just upside down. Because if you're required to work, that falls until you're properly relieved.
Yeah.
If for whatever reason, again, you get a call, right, 7:40, 7:30, you can't just say, I'm about to get out, I can't go to the call.
I guess what's confusing me here is asked to work additional.
When you're asked, they call you in the morning, they'll
Fix those
specify,
words then. 'cause
you
that's
come in for 8
confusing.
hours, so you know you're already committed for 8 hours, or 12 hours, or 24 hours. So they'll actually call you before the day starts at 8 a.m., right? And normally, by 6:30, we already know how many positions need to be filled, and then they start calling from 6:30 all the way, sometimes to 8 a.m.,
yeah,
trying to find people to come in. But they do specify the exact amount of time that you're gonna be there for. Deny it, and they pass it on to another.
Okay.
Two, then, and then this is.
well, let me, okay, we'll leave this proposal as is, but let us rework it.
Okay.
And I will resubmit this proposal at the next meeting.
Yeah.
As and I
Yeah,
may
just
be
a-
calling you to, I may be calling you in order to discuss this and make sure that I'm understanding the additional
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, just from,
Because we may need to provide a lot more clarification on this.
Okay.
just to make sure, I want to reflect what's happening. And there was and I want to understand how the change from 42 hours affects it if it's actually opposite of that.
Yeah.
So I'll be calling you about this one, and then we'll resubmit a revised proposal.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Okay, on Article 19, on longevity pay, this is really just a cleanup. It just, every employee in the bargaining unit shall be paid $5 per month for every year of service if he or she has been employed as a member of the Laredo Fire Department. And we're just changing he and she to they and has to have. That's all it is.
We're good, Howard? You sure? Awesome.
I mean, unless when we go out there, let's say, you know, you have to leave he and she, then we might get,
Yeah, okay.
well,
Well, then we'll leave all of them.
you know how pronouns are. I mean, we have no interest.
I have no
Or we
question.
can do the change if you.
Thank you so much.
So you wanna get the.
So we can feel good.
We can do the embossing of that one.
We can do a T on this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I would rather change it to she.
Okay. Article 35, the official bulletin boards. This one is also just a clarification. We wanted to make sure that the reference to the City of Laredo's policy on sexual harassment and other forms of harassment didn't have to always be updated, and that the ordinance reflected was correct. So it reads, fire department and association announcements shall be posted on official bulletin boards designated by both parties for this purpose. Parties to the agreement, both of whom may use the designated bulletin boards for notices of routine nature, agree that it would be improper to post derogatory or inflammatory written material or any material not in good taste on such bulletin boards pursuant to and in compliance with the City of Laredo's policy on sexual harassment and other forms of harassment. And I added, which is available on the City of Laredo's public website under the Human Resource Department, just to make sure that people know where to access that. And then we reference, please see the ordinance, and we confirm that's the correct ordinance and updates to such policy. Approval must be obtained in advance from the fire chief for the posting of all material except for routine notices of meetings, social events, and other official association business. And this is just making it more user-friendly, letting people know where they can actually find the policy and that it's available on the website. And that there may be updates as approved by council, so. And that's all for there. Is there any questions?
I think it's a great idea.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Probably see that one also.
Okay.
We have no issue with that.
So I'll prepare, once we caucus, I'll prepare TAs for Article 19 and 35. Okay, and that concludes the proposals that we have prepared for today. I will be resubmitting, I think it was Article 17. No, which one was the duty? The additional hours, yes.
Yes.
Article 17, I'll resubmit. At the next meeting.
I think on Article 17, I think think sometimes you get asked to stay because they don't have enough personnel on that. So I think it just might stay an extra hour, an extra 2 hour, but I guess you might have a part-time job that you can't go to. So I guess give the guys an option. Hey, we've already messed up your day. You can't go to your part-time. Allow them to, hey, at least stay those additional 4 hours to make some of that stuff up if you want, you know.
Okay.
I think that's, I guess, the way it was intended.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna be calling you on 17 so that I make sure I understand.
Yeah, we'll be happy to verify it.
Okay.
You want to take a copy?
Yes, absolutely.
Quick break.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Please, drink some water.
I know, I've been drinking water on. Okay, we'll take a break.
They're getting some copies of all the articles that were.
That's fine.
You guys are aware.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
You thought we already printed them out.
We haven't
We have the
discussed
other copies.
next meeting after 2 weeks.
We're probably gonna have to get together and figure out
Yeah, I
dates.
think by the end of this meeting, I think we'll go over it.
The dates, okay,
Just to kind of get an idea.
yeah, because it'll be the week of the 15th, so.
Yeah, that week for sure.
We can look at the dates for that, the week of the 15th and the week of the 22nd.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, we were gonna bring up some of the articles that we had originally had post language on.
Yes.
We kind of went back and kind of realized that I don't think the language is correct on our end. So we're not gonna make any changes for Article 16 and Article 29.
So no changes.
For 16. Article 29. I think 29 initially, maybe we had a misunderstanding.
Yeah, that was where I had said we did have proposed and it was gonna be the date change. But reading through it, it's just the start date. I thought we had to keep on renewing it, but just so for history purposes, we do like that, so we know when that took into effect. And pretty much, that was the only issue.
Okay, and on that end, I'll visit with the Human Resource Department and make sure there aren't any dates that need to be changed or updated, but, so that would basically be, okay. So you have no changes on that.
26 or 29, right?
29.
I'm
16,
29.
16 and 29. You're right. Check the date.
We had on the 29th, we had a recommendation. Oh, 29.
We do? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll look at that. We may, if you don't have a proposal, we may have a proposal on that.
Okay.
Were you gonna go over some of the ones that you presented the last time, or no? Did I miss You were talking about the ones that had no changes, right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
16, okay,
Like we had said, we had proposed
Yes.
changes and we didn't.
okay, perfect.
These are the proposed changes for Article 15, annual base pay.
Okay,
So you can start.
Everything, one second.
There,
okay,
Two
they're
pages.
different sets.
What, this one doesn't show all the strength.
You need a,
Yeah, it doesn't show where we strike out. We just showed you.
you wanna strike it with a pen?
No, it's just,
It was deleted, it was just the dates, mostly.
Oh, okay,
The dates were
like it was
deleted, the
deleted,
years.
it doesn't
yeah.
show, okay.
The previous.
yeah, it didn't show the rows, I just didn't strike, we just put the additions. So this is just, this is all proposing for the eventual. Okay, here it is. Here, I have 2018, that's right, and 21. And this is 2019, 21. I mean, I guess we can read through it and then we can know what we're intending, what we intended to strike.
Okay,
Uh,
what you can do is email me the corrected one.
Yes.
Okay.
So Article 15. As it reads right now, annual base salary adjustments for firefighter cadets, firefighters, fire assistant drivers, fire captains, fire district chiefs, deputy chiefs / fire marshal, and assistant fire chief shall be as follows. Letter A, effective upon ratification of this agreement and approved by city council, the annual base shall be increased by 1.5% effective October 1st, 2018 for all ranks, as illustrated in the table below. Our proposed change was to strike where it says 1.5% along with the numbers. And increase that to 3.25. And the year 2018, strike it to include 2022, which would be the start of this contract.
Okay, so striking 1.5%, making it
25.
3.25%,
Yes.
effective,
October 1st, it would read now to strike 2018 and for it to read 2022.
okay,
Letter B, effective October 1st, 2019. We need to strike 2019 to put it to 2023. The annual base pay shall be increased by 2.5% for all ranks illustrated in the table below. That is to strike 2.5% along with what's in parentheses, and to include 3.25% or 3.25%, 1/4. Letter C, effective October 1st, 2020, we move to strike 2020 and correct that to 2024. The annual base salary shall be increased by 3% for all ranks as illustrated in the table below. We move to strike 3% and parentheses to mirror the 3.25%. Letter D, effective October 1st, 2021. We move to strike 2021 to read now 2025. The annual base pay shall be increased by 3% for all ranks illustrated in the table below. We propose to change, to strike 3% and what's in parentheses to mirror the previous ones at 3.25%. We include complete addition to letter E to extend this contract to a 5th year, which would read effective October 1st, 2026. The annual base pay shall be increased by 3.25% for all ranks as illustrated in the table below.
So that one should be increased by
Yes.
3.25.
Yes, I forgot the,
Okay. Right in there.
and I included, I didn't make the whole thing red on the actual pay scale, that's the new.
This would be the new pay scale.
Yes, that's not, this doesn't show the previous one.
So it showed year 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, and then the proposed 5th year.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the talking point.
So, and the current annual rate on the pay scale is what it currently is at the end of this current contract?
The current annual, yes, that's the
Okay.
one that's in effect right now, as of this day.
Okay.
I didn't include a date on that one, because that one was, increased on 10/1/2021. Sorry, that's it.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, 'cause on the previous contract, the scale didn't show the date.
Okay. And do you have what you're basing the request for a 3.25% increase on the base wages for each year? What are you basing that on?
Mostly on several factors, one of them being the cost of living. The CPI is currently at 9.1 nationwide.
9.1?
Yes. 9.1. Also the raised cost of living per capita here in Laredo specifically. I know we've seen an increase in both property taxes and the market valuation for households. The median has grown in about 50,000 in the last 2 years, and it's projected to keep growing. That's something that I think, the city of Laredo firefighters should not have to struggle to live in Laredo. So we want to make sure that their wages reflect a good living condition. We've also done an analysis on the budgets with our International Association of Firefighters, and they've analyzed the budget and basically stated that for several reasons, right? The budget of Laredo is growing and it's doing well. It's not a city that is going down in a downward trend. It keeps going up. And the general fund also reflects that, whether its growth in revenue has been constant in the last 5 years. Also, the tax revenue that the city is getting from through the general fund has also been growing. The size of the city has also been growing. So I know we're capped at 3.5% from any kind of property tax growth here in the city of Laredo. We're actually statewide, right? But we met that cap at 3.5, but that doesn't encompass any new property. So any new growth of the city that's valued is also factored in. We did have on the budget that the 2021 to 2022, the city of Laredo projected around $3 million growth in property taxes alone. The sales tax has also rebounded from our COVID year. Actually went up 15% from the year prior. We do have, the city of Laredo has received a lot of federal money in the last 2 years, including the American Rescue Plan Act, approximately anywhere from 75 to 80 million. And the airport, I can list all the revenues that have been going on for the city side. So on the firefighter side, what we're worried about is that basically our firefighters should not have to work two jobs or 3 jobs to be able to support their households in this worsening, not economy, but I would say in this increasingly more expensive economy. And that's the basis of our argument here.
In order to maintain the buying power of where we're at the current moment, to reflect basically that, and to piggyback a little bit off of the survey that our international did, the asset to liability ratio right now, and well, what was dated 9/30/21, asset to liability ratio is 3.58. So for every dollar is 3.58.
Out of where, I'm sorry?
Our international association study that they did, the municipal financial, sorry. Yeah, municipal financial analysis.
Are we able to have a copy of that municipal financial analysis?
Yes, ma'am. I'll go ahead and email it to you. Right? I just went ahead and sent it.
Okay, thank you.
I think overall, the city of Laredo has kind of seen the investment they've made in our fire department, to be paramedics, to be certified in firefighting, and plenty of other stuff. These last 2 years, we've been tasked to do a lot more than any regular fire department has, especially with COVID, the uncertainty of it. And I feel, we feel that our firefighters have reassured the taxpayers that their investment has gone more than, has been very productive and successful, because we've provided a service, in our opinion, that
The reassurance that we provided for the city of Laredo, we're there no matter
what the circumstances
no matter what we're going
is.
through.
So
Our services are multifaceted because it kind of reflects what we were talking about earlier when it was the intergovernmental agreement, where it's no longer just fire EMS. Of course, we've always provided our services since I've been in the department. We provide technical rescue, hazmat, but it's grown beyond that because of COVID, has shown us where the department as a whole was taxed with more, and we responded to it. When it comes to providing services for infusions, checkups to the elderly. We were helping with water distributions. We helped 311 during their time, during the water crisis. We also helped the hospitals because we were basically their triage and bed control. When we had our call center going, because of COVID, a lot of people were calling in, didn't want to go to the hospitals, but they were ill. You know, they were basically getting, because of the nurses that were employed by the city, by the fire department, that most of them got their education while they were here, where they were able to provide that service over the phone. Some of them didn't have to go. Some of them were seen as, you know what, this is a critical, we are going to send you somebody. To help not overload the hospitals, because we did see it in the valley. We got to other organizations where the waiting period, because of the hospitals, the proximity to it, everybody was going to one hospital, and it was just swamped. There were waiting periods of 2 to 3 hours for being reported. Here, through this initiative, where it was a call center, where we were calling in, sending them to different satellite ERs depending on the triage. If it was more of a minor, he can go to one of the freestandings. If it was a major, go to one of the 2 hospitals. Where 2, 3 patients, COVID patients, they're at max capacity. We have to send to doctors now. And finding those types of resources, like I say, this is just things that we were tasked and had no game plan for, and we were able to adapt and provide the service to keep that function going without a hitch. So that's to reflect on some of the services that were provided through the department beyond what had been told before, where it was fire, EMS, technical rescue, hazmat, airport rescue, firefighting. Now we've gone to community outreaches where, you know, just different services that are being provided through to the city, through the fire department.
and now with the immigration, also
The immigration.
But we see that the city citizens also value us, as there was a survey done in 2021 where 35% of participants value public safety as one of the most important services here in the city of Laredo. So we know that the city does value the resources being allocated to the fire department and the services that we bring to the community.
Do you also have a copy of that survey?
We have, we did.
Oh, you have it?
The city
Okay,
did
the
it to
city
us.
did it.
They have the resources for that.
So we have that survey. Okay, well,
And these numbers, please excuse me, almost positive that they're accurate, but because of my limited Excel, so you.
yeah, the intent is for a 3.25
Yes.
increase across the board for each year. Right, okay. Any other questions? No, any questions? Okay. Well, we will take your proposal, we've got to evaluate it.
Yes.
Cost it, look at the information you provided, look at our information, and we will work on responding to this one.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. This is next week, is there anything else?
Is it off?
No,
You need off?
just take a quick break.
The next one, 30. 30. Let me get these. This one's Article 30. And you're fired. Good job. Good job. No, but if you print out, you really.
Oh, he didn't print them out?
No, he didn't. He did print it out. Cause yeah, you know what I'm missing.
Quick 5-minute break,
Yeah.
just to get the printout copies.
Oh, sorry, yeah, they're gonna type this. Thank you.
On Article 30. Also, before we begin, just the formatting, the way it's on the contract has that little box in there, just because ours wasn't jiving, we took that format off. It still reflects on where we are right now. The first proposed change would be on Article 30.2. That 3 doesn't meant to be straight. It's supposed to be,
You just,
I don't know why I did that again.
Deleted it and then just.
I fight with that all the time, so I know the pain.
Right now, as it reads right now, the city shall contribute 20.10% of the firefighters' pay towards LFRS. The city shall contribute an additional 1% of all firefighters' pay towards the LFRS effective beginning the first payday of October 2018. The city shall contribute an additional 0.25% or 1/4% of the firefighters' pay towards the LFRS, increasing the contribution to 20.35%. Effective beginning the first payday, October 2019, the city shall contribute an additional 1/4% of the firefighters' pay towards LFRS, increasing contributions to 20.6. Effective beginning the first payday, October 2020, the city shall contribute an additional 1/4% of the firefighters' pay towards LFRS, increasing contributions to 20.85%. Effective beginning the first payday, October 2021, the city shall contribute an additional 1/4% of the firefighters' pay towards LFRS, increasing the contribution to 21.10. Our proposed changes on the first 20.1 to reflect our current rate at right now, so we strike to remove 20.1 to 21.1, which is what we're currently at. On the next sentence, the city shall contribute an additional 1%. We move to strike that to add an additional 2.67%. And everything after 2018, well, 2018 to be stricken and reflect 2022. And everything after that, what I just read, to be stricken down.
Okay, so the city shall contribute 21.10%. That is currently what the city's contributing
Yes,
right now,
that is what
right?
it's at currently contributing.
And then the additional,
Request is 2.67%.
okay. And what's the 2.67 based on? Is that kind of just taking everything that was given over that span of that time period during the last contract?
No, the last contract was 1%.
Oh, okay,
So they're asking for a new.
They're for a new.
2.67.
okay, new. The 2.67 is new.
Yes.
Has that been costed out?
As far as how much it's gonna cost the city?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Oh, I
It
forgot
close
that.
to 1.5 million.
No less?
Per year. Per year.
And this would be effective 2022,
Beginning of the
and then
contract.
nothing else after that, if we do a 5 years, right?
Yes, depending on.
Except, yeah, okay. Any contributions on the firefighter side that is being planned on the pensions that we'll know?
Right now, they are proposed changes that we have to vote on, of course, depending on the TA agreement, what is negotiated through. There are proposed, an increase, they're gonna bring it to the membership for an additional 1%.
1% for the fire.
So now,
And a
Effective?
reduction of benefits.
and a reduction of benefits.
And the 1% will be effective when, if it would get
It
voted
would
out.
be,
It would be, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe,
Same
the
day.
board, it would be.
I think the ballot has had an effective date, but I'm assuming
I
that
believe
right
it should,
right
it should
after.
be by the end of the year.
Yeah. If not before, by the end of the year on December 31st, it would be already coming to effect.
Could we also get maybe a listing, I know that it's not approved, but a listing of any other reduction of benefits that, so that we
I
can
think
just
that,
kind
yeah,
of work it out?
We've met before, and there's two different plans that are being proposed to our members now. One has, I guess, more cuts, and one has more cuts, one has less cuts, one's contingent on the city to be able to get down to the amortization that we're supposed to be at. I think, we've had 2 bad reviews, and because of those 2 bad reviews, the state mandates that we come up with a plan, in partnership, the city and the firefighters, to be able to fix the pension. We don't want, the state to have to come down and mandate what we're both gonna have to do, right? So there are drastic cuts to be able to, one of the things is the overtime that we're getting rid of, that I think it's a major one that's gonna bring down the amortization period. I think right now it's over 50 years that we have, so even the one with less cuts just off of firefighters, it gets it down to around 30 years amortization. So there are drastic cuts that the firefighters are looking to make, and as well, including possibly an extra 1% on their part to be able to, I guess, fix the pension.
In order for us to make a good decision,
Mhm.
would you all be able to provide us information on the unfunded liability amount and the number of years that you currently have, or maybe that report? I know maybe I could get it, but
Mhm.
officially, we'd like to have it so that we could look at the report.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are we able to have a copy of the proposed plans or the changes, just so we know?
Yeah,
I
that's good.
believe so, we just have to talk to the pension board.
Okay.
Yes, we would have to discuss the pension board. I don't know if they have been officially,
We approved the ballot this last meeting, so
Okay.
the ballot itself has been approved. I think the directive at the board meeting was to go back and look at the dates, so that on the next board meeting, I think it's on the 17th or the 18th, they're supposed to come back with the tentative dates to actually take it to vote to the membership. And I think the way the ballot was approved right now is that there's, like you mentioned, the firefighters are actually electing between the current plan, option 1 and option 2. And then as amendments, one of the amendments they can vote on separate was the additional 1% from the firefighter. And there were a couple of 2 other items that don't really have an impact, but it was an option.
In military
The
buyback
military
and
spouse.
spouse dependent.
What kind of vote does it take to approve any kind of change? Majority vote?
Simple majority. And we understand that the only reason that the current plan is there as a vote is because it has to be. It's not an intention or anything of, we don't want to change anything. We understand that it has to be on the ballot, so.
and I think we've had discussions before. I know we sat down and we've spoken about in the past, last year, about the deficiencies of the pension come from multiple reasons, right? Mainly there was a lack of hiring for an extended amount of time. Also with the increase of usage of the department came a lot of overtime, and the rules that are in the pension right now basically allow the overtime to be calculated into some people's formulas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
During COVID was very hurtful for our pension, especially when we're not having any new people come into the department. I mean, you're basically increasing the benefits and not increasing contributions, right? So,
And the attempt also is to be more financially responsible on our part, and that's why,
and I know
one of the things that kicked into it is that the rate of return
is actually attempted to be brought down to moral realization, which in and of itself is becoming self-inflicting because we're trying to correct something that was already wrong. And by doing that, it automatically shoots our amortization years. So we're attempting to correct that, but upon correcting that, it's just having an area effect. Going back to what Oscar said, is that we've already been through 2 phases where we've been drastically understaffed. The first one, I believe, was back in 2010, more or less around 2010, where our manpower dropped down to 303 firefighters. And at that time, a lot of people were like, hey, we overtime this and that. We didn't reflect until afterwards, like we're losing money towards the pension because of the fact we're being understaffed. And then currently in the situation, because of COVID, where the hiring process just took a lot longer, where we fell below the manpower, where right now we're at 367, 363. And it's supposed to be at 407. We're supposed to have been at 407 since the beginning of this contract. And then, believe it or not, in the last year and a half, if I'm not mistaken, we've actually fallen below that and maintained that lack of manpower, that lack of staffing. So that also plays into effect of how the pension has taken a hit. So this is an attempt to correct our, basically to correct the deficiencies.
Yeah, and like I said, I know we've been in contact with the city in the past. We sat down with Ms. Cabello, Mr. Spasa, back with the former
Robert Eads.
Robert Eads, former
City
manager. And we know that this pension is a city-sponsored pension, and we want to be, responsible fiscally with this pension, but we want the input of the city. So we feel that because these things happen that affected the city and also negatively affected us, that we should work together to come up with a solution that benefits the citizens of Rio.
Why the 0.67? It's so different, like it's not like a rounded number.
Yeah,
It's a number that was thrown in the actuaries' plans. So we kind of just referenced it off of that.
Okay.
Mark from the actuarial came up, there was a question asked, in other words, what will it take to get us to a certain year? So that 267 was part of the calculation. Certain year, to get us down to 25 years. The board is trying to get the actual years down from 45, 47
To 25.
right now to 25. So that was part of the calculation, but we're doing, there's several proposals that are there. One is the reduction of the OT. I think depending on which plan gets approved, it will bring us up down to certain years. If the 1% gets approved, that'll bring us down a little bit more. So that number was in that actuarial list.
And we also have the understanding of some of the membership in the past year and a half had tried to push the vote to have it happen sooner, because we knew as the time was kind of being passed on, it was gonna kind of compound the effect of not doing it sooner rather than later. We did ask Mark on one of the meetings, like, why is it not, basically we're being told to hold off. The pension board, if I'm not mistaken.
To hold off?
Yeah,
Yes, we need to be able to hold off, just because if you had a vote, let's say maybe at the beginning of the year, where you would have that mass exodus, so you would just increase that staffing shortage, that the
Right,
city,
understand.
that we talked about in the past,
We
right?
talked about last year.
Yeah, so,
I think what had happened is prior to the COVID, the ballot was being prepared to present, but what happened after that and everything kind of went on hold for that reason. But the actuary had been recommending that we make this change to actuarial.
Okay, so educate me, assuming that we go with these recommendations and the ballot is approved at 1% on the firefighter side, it would reach 25% in how many years? Or how fast of unfunded liability for 25% would that? How quickly would that be?
It would be the 25 years of amortization.
Oh, 25 years of
Yes.
amortization. And that would be quickly, like,
I think it's a long term.
Well, that's how long,
the
how
way
long
that-
will it take us
Well,
to
I
reach that
think the
goal?
next time that,
The next actuary.
the next actuary is gonna be
Will
coming
reflect
up
In 2
this
years
year.
after that.
No, the actuary is coming up at the end of this year. So when he redoes his study, he's not gonna factor in the additional money, so it should be reflected at that point
Right away.
where you're gonna end.
Any contribution on either side, along with the proposed changes that gets approved by the membership, will be immediately factored in, and that will, in a year, or this year, when we get the results, will automatically show,
Where we're at, where the actuary is, with the unfunded.
Cadets contribute?
yes.
Although, and that's,
The data fire, they.
yeah, and that's something that was mentioned, even though we're short on the 407, those 22 cadets are contributing right now. So
Yes, but
It's a
22
smaller, it's a
22
smaller.
a smaller amount.
a
you're
smaller
right.
amount,
But-
including the 30, they're still there, they're
Right.
funded for, with also a smaller amount.
Right.
So,
But it's not like we're missing
Yeah.
all of it.
No, it's not missing the whole amount, but we are
Yeah,
missing
currently,
a decent chunk of it.
And
for
those,
2 years we were, and that's where the deficiency basically came about. Or it came more to light.
And like I said, it wasn't the first time. The first time that it happened, that we got, I think that time was also right around 40 firefighters that had retired, and we went down to 303. And it didn't trigger an academy till later
So
on.
basically, what, would it be as simple to say, we need 3.67% to get us to the 25 years? However, it's cut, is that?
No,
would it be that
not
simple?
exactly, because we would still need to make some cuts.
Right,
because
besides that.
Okay,
Right, besides that, but
Yeah.
that's the target
I think-
percentage we need
I
to
think we
hit.
need the 2.67. I think that extra 1% is to, just make it healthier on our part, you know.
Oh,
We
okay, so
wanna
then the
put in
actual
an
is
extra-
only asking for 2.67?
the actuary was saying 267 to get us to a certain year. So
That one.
that one is already part of the 267 if it passes through.
What one?
The one that's in the ballot right now going to the firefighter.
Okay, wait, no.
No,
The
that would be the
2.67
extra.
is, no, that's extra.
That was it.
They're
That would be
asking,
an
listening for
extra.
267, and
From
they'll
the city.
contribute 1 point.
Yeah.
So that's, my question is 3.67 gonna get us where we need to be? And I'm hearing, no, it's 2.67 total you need, and you're putting in one extra to be able to,
Yes.
So that's
Just-
a proposal.
Yes, I guess a proposal to our members. The cuts, our cuts that we're gonna make, and with the 2.67 will get us to the 25.
That
Should
one
get us
would
close
do,
to
No, that
would get us a long term.
The additional 1%, but the 267 is gonna get us below.
below 25.
Mhm.
Which.
the goal is
So-
25.
Goes 25,
25.
and and correct me if I'm wrong, it's still a certain grace period, or it's not a hard number. When you do that, you're automatically.
And then you're
gonna be
moving maybe retirement from whatever to whatever, and.
here. Yeah, because also,
We have a lot of cuts to our benefits. I mean, our membership is definitely
if I'm understanding.
making
6 cuts.
adjustments.
I would say maybe about the cuts that we're making, it would be closer to 3% in cuts. I guess that we would be factoring in
So how can we-
contributing as
Let's
well.
think about this, like, not saying yes, not saying no, we're not saying anything, but let's think about it. So if the city decides, we'll give you this, but then they say no, how do we get us to both commit to whatever it is that we're gonna get approved? Because one is not successful without the
I
other.
mean, we can maybe factor in something we're contingent on the firefighters voting in a plan or something like that, something that we could
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
probably look into, but I know the actuary has told us, and the members know, there is no plan where you keep your current plan.
So you all
Either
would
we
be
have to-
open to that, to
Mhm.
say, okay, we meet you here,
Because I
At the
know,
table
I know
here or
during
whatever.
the meeting,
Yes.
the question was asked, what do we need in order to maintain current? And I believe it was like 4 like a ridiculous amount that you would have to put in. And even then, we're still in the same boat because of the fact of the benefit cuts weren't gonna be triggered. Like, we as a membership understand that those benefit cuts need to happen. In order to sustain a healthy pension fund for basically everybody that's here right now and beyond, these cuts have to happen. Now, it's just dependent on what can we get and what can we sell to the members as to which one can we do? Because in reality, like, nobody likes to give up anything, but they know that when you have to, you do. So.
Our membership is very educated right now in this situation.
it could be something that we'd be open to discuss. And I know in the past, we've talked about, I know the city giving contributions to where, maybe writing something in there that, we can use those extra contributions for extra benefits, in the future.
And this
Yeah.
is not, it's not, actually, it's state, so they're not gonna be used for, factored into for
Early
increasing
retirement.
benefits.
Okay.
Not-
Okay, thank you for letting us know.
But, how does the vote, or how's the timing of the vote work compared to our negotiations here on the table?
From what I got from the chairperson of the pension, which is Albert Chapa, he's not here today. I asked him, does this have to get voted in by council, and like when, he's like, no, as soon as you have something already negotiated, where you at least TA on it, it'll trigger the voting meeting.
Okay, that's what triggers the vote.
Yes, because we need to make these changes by the end of the year.
Well, we have to get it approved by
I guess.
October.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Total.
So,
so, okay.
and it'll go through a general meeting, we'll put everybody on shift and vote and present. The same thing when we do our contract, we'll present ours, the same thing with the pension, they're gonna present, this is what it is. These were the proposed changes, which we've already had that same meeting. And it's just a vote, so we can get the accurate amount from all the membership instead of from a limited amount of you.
Is the actuarial study something that, we can look at?
We could probably provide that.
Probably
Yeah.
forward it.
I believe it's actually posted on the fire pension website.
Oh, okay,
2020
so we can get it
is the
there.
last time that they did it.
And the one that the 2.67 is based on the one that's posted right now, and then you're expecting one to be completed by the end of the year?
Yes,
Okay.
contingent
No,
on
it's gonna
whatever.
be started at the end of the year.
Oh,
It won't be
started.
completed until
Following.
the
Oh,
following.
okay,
Yeah.
so the one that we rely on is gonna be the one that's posted on the fire pension
2020,
yes,
website?
yes.
Okay.
2020, which they published in May, I think.
Right.
Yeah, they usually do them, what, about every 2 years?
Every 2 years.
Yes, every 2 years.
Okay,
Also, the next proposed change will be on 30.3, at the very bottom, where this reflects to the months of active duty federal military service for the military buyback. At the very bottom, we propose changing from 60 just to more.
It's still the same amount of years.
It's
so it
still the
doesn't
same
matter.
amount of years, it's
We
just.
feel it was a typo because it said 50, it said 54 or
Or 60.
or 60,
No.
so we just felt it was a
Or
typo, so we
We
just
understand.
54 or more.
so you either had to have 54 or 60?
There's nothing in between.
Yeah.
Between.
Okay. Are those the only changes on the third?
Yes.
And that other-
So, and I'm assuming that on that change of 54 or more, it was already, is it currently being done as
Right,
54 or more?
Yes.
Okay. So that's current.
Well, at least from my understanding, because I'm not military, so I've never actually, I never really informed myself on that. We just see, we saw it as a, like, why does that one say or and everything else has a dash?
Yeah. Okay. Because there was two people, one had 54 and one had 60. Okay, any questions on that?
No.
No? Any questions?
For us, as of right now, that's our presentation for the proposals we have.
Okay. And we will go through those, and I have that listed as we will be working on costing them and working on responding to that.
Yes.
Okay, and then I have prepared the Article 19 and Article 35 tentative agreements. And Article 19 is, here, I'll give you we'll use those as the two original. I'm just going to use this copy to read from. It's Article 19 longevity pay. Every employee in the bargaining unit shall be paid $5 per month for every year of service. It was he, she, we're changing to they, and it was has, and we're changing to have, been employed as a member of the Laredo Fire Department. And then the other tentative agreement we have, and these will be the two originals, I'm just using this to read from, is Article 35, the official bulletin boards. And here we're just adding where you can obtain a copy of the City of Laredo's policy on sexual harassment and other forms of harassment. And we're adding which is available on the City of Laredo's public website under the Human Resource Department. And saying, please see. And then if the ordinance is listed, ordinance number 2000-0-237, and updates to such policy. Now we're sending it the 28th day of July at 5:05. Yours, Doc. Yeah. This is yours. Okay.
You can see them on this one, right?
On both ends, do we
This one
have?
has it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This one has a seal. Oh, you did it.
Okay, oh, okay, there you go. And so we have the tentative agreements on Article 19 longevity pay and Article 35 official bulletin boards. Yes.
Yes.
Progress.
Especially since this one I didn't get carpal tunnel like the last time.
Oh, gosh, I know. So, yes, now we're gonna look at dates.
Maybe limited to the amount of days that we.
So because we have a lot of articles that we need to respond to that require a lot, like costing and really looking at the information and probably seeking more information from you, just depending on how it goes. We will have, we have 2 weeks to work on it. We do have budget workshops in the midst of that. We can tentatively book 2 dates, and if it works, we can continue with a date back to back. But I feel at this point that it may serve us best if we were able to do like a full day, and then a full day for each week. possibly, but we can try to at least tentatively set 2 days, if we can get, see how much of how many responses we can have prepared. Because we may have enough responses to do for 2 days, I just don't know yet.
Okay.
So, but that's I'm trying to push this forward and trying to move it, and,
Not the 17th.
so let me look at the
I'm
17th.
actually, I'm completely available on 17th. 17th, August 17th.
Well, not working, you have to go up
Why?
On the 18th, Captain starts. No.
Is 17th good?
17th works for me.
17th?
Does it work? for you, Steve?
On the 18th.
It's Wednesday.
This one, this one?
It's your birthday.
There's a
If I
captain.
remember
It's his
by
birthday, y'all
email,
have to buy him a cake, if that's the case.
You can arrange
He was
something.
probably wanting to be off.
German chocolate?
That was a plan.
You can wait till 16.
So it's gonna be a special lunch.
It's gonna be a very special. 17th.
Yeah, the
Does it work for all of you
17th
guys?
works for me. Good.
August 17th?
No, I'm out, but I've already.
Oh, okay.
And then I have,
And the following week?
yeah, the following week, I have the 24th is available.
Let's see,
I also have the 23rd,
August 24th?
yeah, 23rd or 24th.
Either
Or
one of
we
those days,
can try to do, or we can,
whichever.
let's set, one date, and then, but let's tentatively set two,
Okay.
but for sure one.
Okay.
What works best for the management team?
I'm good on the 24th. And unless something's wrong and it's not transferring. I mean.
Other day?
For me.
So let's do, let's book the 23rd.
Okay.
And then also keep the 24th as tentative.
Okay.
What we'll try to do is that will give, if we have just one day on the 17th, that week, the week before, it'll be more probable that we can do 2 in a row the next week. So. Because on the 17th, that's the last day for all new proposals to be placed on the table. Okay.
You doing Saturdays? Saturday? No?
Sunday?
Yeah, sure.
When is this? Is it your birthday?
We can do the weekend.
His also has a birthday every Saturday. My,
Those are my wedding anniversaries every year.
right? My youngest daughter, she was very little, and somebody asked her, when's your birthday? She goes, Tuesday. And she's like, oh, this coming Tuesday? She goes, no, every Tuesday. She knew.
That's a smart
She
girl.
was smart.
It's August 17th for sure, right?
Yes.
Okay.
August 17th and August 23rd, and we're also setting the 24th, and we'll play it by ear. We'll make that decision on the 20th. Probably before then, I'll know.
Mhm.
And,
Just to, I guess, I had written it down. The 60th day is when? I mean,
so
Oh,
we
yes.
started, it's, the 60th day started on the 13th,
we started July 13th,
right?
so we,
That was the initial meeting.
yes.
Was it the ground rules?
The 60 days started, on the third meeting. when we first started putting proposals on the table.
She said, be the 20th. Let me say that.
No, that's when we first went for the.
Yeah,
No,
the-
we don't, we didn't
20th
vote.
of July.
Yeah. No, we met on the 17th.
No, we met,
We met on the 13th.
on July, we met on the
Oh.
the first proposals we got from your side were on the 13th and the 14th.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
See, that's what I have, let's see.
Yes.
Oh, no, yeah, you're
July.
July. July? Yeah, sorry, I was mixing up June as well. The ground rules we were in.
So look, is
Second
it-
time, yeah. The first one was May
Let's
15th.
see,
Yes,
yeah.
The second thing for the ground rules was June
3,
15th.
4,
Yes.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
July.
Should actually be September 11th.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking,
Right.
September 11th, which is a Sunday. Right?
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
This is, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, I'm coming up with September 11th.
Yes.
So even with, so we have August 17th, August 23rd, and 24th, and then that still leaves us 2 more weeks after that, and then we can gauge within those 2 weeks where we are. We do have a lot of things to go through,
Yes.
so, but we're making progress every day.
You know, I don't know, we wanna try and come to some kind of agreement in case it does get closer to that day when we sign on extension. So we
Sure,
can, just continue on with the process.
absolutely. Well, I'll have one ready, because I know, 10 hours seems like a lot,
Mhm.
but when we're getting right down to it,
Yeah.
it really isn't. So, there's some days that we get a lot done in a short amount of time. Sometimes things take longer.
Mhm.
We're really going to utilize these 2 weeks to do a lot of homework on our side to try and make that, add efficiency to that. But as we're progressing, I don't know, we'll see how far we go, but I want to make sure that we get through all the proposals and have time to do that, and we're of course willing to do that. As we're moving forward, I think that the ultimate goal is to come up with a contract.
Yes.
And
Yeah, that's my
so I think within those 2 weeks, we will definitely be in contact and agree, we can talk about agreement for an extension at that point, before the deadline.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay,
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, like, hopefully by then we will have this thing ironed out and ready to go.
yeah,
But in case it gets closer to the deadline, so we have the understanding of, we can take that route. that avenue.
absolutely. Absolutely. The goal here is to work through all the issues, and we're trying, of course, we're taking the easier ones first, the big ones are gonna take a little bit longer, and we are committed to working through them, and we want a contract.
Yes, we do too. Like I say, any information, clarification, to help understand for you all, you have to let us know, contact you, phone, email, anything like that.
Same thing, same thing. Okay, very good. I think that's all that we have for today, and I think that's what we have. And it was a good session. Thank y'all very
Very
much.
good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And anything else, I guess y'all decide lunch next time?
Yeah, I think we have lunch next
Because I
time.
know y'all pick good lunches. Yeah.